This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you by BMO Harris Bank.
We're here at Metea Valley with Alonzo Taylor-Jones of the boys track and field team. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So you're not just a track athlete, though. You've been playing on the football team for a couple of years. Being a two-sport athlete, what have you gotten to learn about yourself over the years?
I learned during football, when I played football, it was probably one of my most exciting moments starting to play football, because I was like, I didn't know, I'd seen football on TV all the time, and it was just so exciting to see them play football. And then when I step on the field, I would always want to implement them and stuff like that. And so when I got to play football, it was just really exciting, and I learned exactly who I was and like what I wanted to do when I got older, and especially during high school, and what position I want to play, stuff like that. And so it really got me thinking like, well, I'm, pretty good at this thing. Like, this is probably what I'm going to be doing in college. Now, later on, I found out that I wanted to do track, and then when I found out I wanted to do track, it was one of my friend's decisions, and he was like, "You should do track with me." And I was like, "I don't know about track. I've never heard about track." And so he pushed me to do track. And when I found out I was pretty fast, I was like, "Yeah, let me try and do this."
So when did you join the track team?
7th grade, I joined at Hill Middle School, and I was from Chicago. I came back from Chicago from 6th grade to 7th grade at Hill, and I'd never heard about track. And then my friend told me, he was like, "Hey, yeah, you should do track with me." And so it's pretty interesting.
Do you think being on track now for 4, 5, 6 years now has helped you on the football field? I mean, obviously now that you're in your senior season, there's no more football. But do you think the two coordinated at all?
Oh, definitely. I think track really helps with football. My track speed really played into account on the football field. I know I tried to do most of the stuff that I do on the track field, on the runway. I try to do that when I'm in on open field, and try to use my speed to my advantage.
Before we touch on track a little bit more, I kind of do want to talk a little bit about the football season. Obviously, it didn't end the way you guys wanted to, record-wise, after the year before getting to the playoffs. But for you to end the way your season did in the final game against Lincoln Way Central, take me through that game. Once you realized that this is going to be a special game for you.
It really happened the first practice of that week. My coach came up to me and was like, "Yeah, you need 135 yards, and then you'll have 1,000 yards." And then from there, it was just like a momentum drive to just get the 1,000 yards. Every day at practice, it was just like, that was my goal. I was striving to get that 1,000 yards, because I know Metea had a huge history of having great running backs. So I just wanted to prove that I can be a great running back too, and that being a running back at Metea is a huge honor.
You also had a sophomore starting at quarterback in Peyton Thorne. When you guys knew that he was going to be the starter going forward, was it any different that he was an underclassman, or did you guys just take it as he's our quarterback and this is what we're going to do?
It was pretty weird, because I was hearing about him when I was a junior and he was a freshman playing up on sophomore, and I was like, "Hey, that's pretty nice that he's playing up on sophomore." And then I found out that when the start of my senior year, I found out that he was going to be playing varsity with us. I was like, "Hey, that's some learning experience that he's going to get. Like, he's going to be really good when he gets older." And then I found out that he was starting, and I was just like, that's like, kudos to him for starting. And then I just kind of took him under my wing and started mentoring him as much as I could. And he pushed me, and I pushed him during practice and during games. And yeah, it was kind of our relationship. During the very first practice I started, I found out that he was going to be starting, and I felt like I had a duty to show him like what varsity was, and like just get him acclimated. And I didn't want him to feel any pressure. I didn't want him to feel like, oh, we're seniors, he should be feeling like he's an underclassman. Like, I think that he should, step up to the level that he played at, and he did a really good job at that.
Moving to the track side of things, you guys are just getting into the indoor track season. Obviously, we're outdoor on a 60-degree day in the middle of February, but a couple meets now on the indoor season so far. How do you like your progression as we get going here in the season?
Yeah, I started out my first meet. It was actually pretty good. I was coming back from a quad injury, And so when I was able to start moving again and get motion again, it felt really good to be back on the track and get acclimated back onto the track field. During my 60, I felt really good. I ran a 7:13, and it was a good 7:13. It felt really good to start running again. And then the 4x2 we came back from, it was pretty insane. One of my friends, Mason Bronson, he fell but he kept his composure. He fell, handed the baton to Ben Lutz. He was about 30 meters behind, and just hawked everybody down, and we got first place.
So when you have somebody like Ben that you've ran with now a couple of years, part of the state 5th place team last year in the 4x100, do you guys kind of feed off each other as far as competing against each other in practices?
Oh yeah, I think it's a big part of our relationship to start pushing each other, and I think that's pretty much what we did during the 4x1, and that's how we got to state. All 4 of us just kept pushing each other. We felt like we were disconnected, so we just came up with certain ideas to start pushing each other and building that camaraderie, like spending the night at each other's houses and just hanging out a lot. So
very cool, very cool. Now I guess it's still early to find out who's going to be taking over the spots, but have you guys had any ideas as to who might be filling in for the other 2 spots there?
I honestly don't know. the competition is pretty steep, so it's hard to say right now. I'll pretty much have an answer late, towards top times. So yeah. Now,
what are you doing between football and outdoor track to get yourself ready? Like during the winter, obviously you used to play basketball, but now you don't anymore. So what would you do during the off season, I guess?
We have strength and conditioning program here, and so every Tuesday, Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, I would be here practicing with Metea, and then we just be grinding until the season starts. So that's pretty much what I do. We have a 2-week period before strength and conditioning starts, and once I give myself that whole 2-week period, don't do anything, and once strength and conditioning starts, that's when I start rolling.
Now, you have your coaches here with the trackside, but you've also kind of keep in touch with the football team coaches, Ben Kleinhansen?
Oh yeah, I keep in touch with they ask me how I'm doing all the time, and I would just check up, especially because one of my coaches is my gym teacher, so I really have
don't have a choice.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's really nice to keep up with them and for them to be able to keep up with me too. So.
Now you came from the city, so being out here now for a few years, what's the lifestyle like? Any different, I guess, and how has Metea helped you mature as an adult?
I was originally I was born in Chicago. I don't know when I moved to Indiana, Valparaiso, and I stayed there until maybe 5th grade. And I moved 5th grade, and then on to 6th grade. I was in Chicago, and then I moved here at the end of 6th grade onto 7th grade, and it was like 3 different worlds, like from Valpo to Chicago to Metea. It's just 3 different worlds.
So now, you still have a few months left in your senior year. Have you thought about, the end of the school year, the end of time in Metea, and moving on to college yet?
Yeah, I do. I think about it all the time. Moving on is probably going to be really hard because I'm so involved into Metea, and it kind of pushes me because I know I'm going to have to do that when I go to college, and it just gets me motivated to, if I can do it here, I can do it out in the real world. And so all of these things just push me, like track, football, all these things get me motivated to do better things in college.
Alonzo, good luck this season. We hope to see you do very well and maybe another trip downstate.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.